brightly.
Hello, this is Greg Zimmerman. I'm the executive editor of Building Operating Management magazine. I'd like to thank you for attending today's webcast, which is called Tools to Navigate the Changing Workforce. Our presenters today are Paul LaChance and Josh Peach. Paul LaChance has spent his entire career devoted to optimizing maintenance teams by enabling data-driven decisions and actionable insights. He wrote his first CMMS system in 2004 and has since spent his professional career designing and directing CMMS and EAM systems. He currently serves as a senior manufacturing advisor for Dude Solutions. Josh Peach is passionate about people and inspiring them to do the best work of their lives. He does this by spreading positivity through speaking engagements, industry-focused presentations, and being a corporate evangelist for a brand he truly believes in. Josh has more than 15 years of experience partnering with operations professionals from all walks of life to help them maximize effectiveness through the use of technology. Today's learning objectives include discuss current statistics on the changing workforce and how it affects the world of operations, analyze training and development opportunities to help equip you and your team for the future, and learn technology to help your team grow their skills and productivity, and discover how operations professionals are successfully navigating these changes. Before we get started, I'd like to get a few housekeeping details out of the way. A live question and answer session will follow today's presentation. To submit questions, please use the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen and send your question to all panelists. Our presenter will answer as many questions as time permits. Today's event will also include interactive multiple-choice polling questions. Your input is very much appreciated. At the conclusion of today's webcast, you will receive a link to download a PDF copy of today's presentation slides. You will also receive a link to a brief online assessment. Upon successful completion of this assessment, you will receive your CEU certificate. That is it for me, and with that, I will turn it over to you, Josh.
Well, thank you very much, and appreciate everyone taking one of their 168 hours in their week to be with us here to talk about navigating the changing workforce that we all are experiencing. The key topics that we're going to cover today, Paul and I, is going to be today's workforce, the labor market, skill sets, technology, and teams. Everyone on this call probably has some form of a team, number of folks that they work with, and that's probably, if you've been doing it for a while, has changed dramatically, especially in facilities across the country with the number of generations that you work with and what they're utilizing more of, which is technology. So with that, I'm going to start with the first polling question to try to test the water and see how your thinking on this is. What is your organization's biggest concern with the changing workforce? Is it the looming wave of retiring baby boomers, training current employees in order to maintain required technical skills, getting everyone of different ages and skill levels to work well together, finding and implementing new technology, recruiting and retaining top employees, or all of the above? If you could put your choice and thoughts there on A, B, C, D, E, or F, we'll give you guys a couple of seconds and then discuss the findings. And a few more seconds so we can gather the results. All right, looks like we've got some results here. And it looks like the winner is F, which is all of the above, with not quite a close second, but about half that number with the letter E, recruiting and retaining top employees. I think that's a big one. They all are big. And then third was looming wave of retiring baby boomers, with a couple thinking with getting everyone to work well together. And finding and implementing new technology were tied with the same number of responses. Definitely a reason for all of the above. Those are all kind of scary thoughts of what our workplace looks like and the things that we have to adjust to. And you guys have your hands full with that. This is the first time in history that we have 5 generations potentially working in the same department together, or same organization together. So it makes it pretty interesting. We're going to start off with the first topic here. I'm going to let Paul take the wheel on this one and give you guys some of his insight.
Thanks, Josh. And I do agree. The votes that we just saw coming in coincide with our experience and our research, and I think you'll find a lot of the answers about what is going on today. So let's look at a couple of the statistics about what's going on with the state of today's workforce. So here's what we know. There are 7.6 million unfulfilled jobs, maintenance and operations related jobs, but only 6.5 million people looking for work. So we're already in a tight and competitive labor situation as we stand right now. Even more interesting, possibly challenging, is that 50% of facilities personnel are set to retire in the next 10 years. If you look around your entire maintenance and operations folks and picture half of them gone in the next 10 years, some sooner than later, that's a big change, and we've got to figure out a way how we're going to adjust for that. We are definitely an aging workforce. We're an aging society. Americans will be, on average, 65 or older by the year 2030. So is this keeping you up at night? Is your workforce keeping you at night? Questions that you might have bothering you or have you thinking right. And if they don't, you probably need to start thinking about these things. How are you going to replace these soon-to-be retiring employees? How are you going to handle the competition to find that skilled person to fill those roles? How are you going to find the next qualified technicians in general, especially in this competitive marketplace? How are you going to learn the skills you need to grow your career and do your best work? And how are you going to get your team to learn and understand these new technologies that are coming down the pike? I want to introduce to you Susan and Chuck. Every organization has a Susan or a Chuck. You might be a Susan or a Chuck on this call today. You've been around your organization for a long time. Susan knows every inner workings of who works in what buildings, what facilities, what campuses, what assets. She knows the contractors. She knows the status of all the work that is ongoing. You can go to Susan for any bit and piece of information you need. Chuck's the guy that's been working in maintenance and operations for 20, 30, 40 years. Chuck's the kind of person that can change a filter in a pump or an HVAC unit blindfolded in a hurricane. And he's the guy that people go to when they're not sure how to get something done on an asset that's been around your facility for a long time. Picture losing Susan and Chuck. Picture replacing them with this younger generation of people that have to not only learn your operations, but learn these modern tools and assets and equipment they're going to have to need to work with that. So it's change in this workforce. Change is not always a bad thing. I believe that change is synonymous with opportunity. You have to think, you're not alone with this. Every government organization, every school system, every manufacturer is in the same boat here. We are all a part of the same changing workforce. Our suppliers, our vendors, it's across the board. You can't change that. But what you can do is you can work with this changing workforce. And you can use it as an opportunity to look at your maintenance operations to be more efficient. So what is the state of the current labor market? Well, here's what we know. Shortfall of workers. 10 million is the estimated shortfall of workers for the next 10 years. That competitive situation to hire qualified people, or any people, is going to become tougher. I have to reiterate this aging workforce and the facility personnel that are retiring. The average number of days to fill a position, especially a skilled production, maintenance and operations type person, is 93 days. That number was in the 70s not that long ago, just a handful of years ago was in the 70s. It's taking longer to find these people. So clearly the situation is becoming more competitive and will only increase doing that. So what are our challenges around this? I believe that the biggest challenge here is the historical knowledge that's lost when the Susans and the Chucks or whoever they are in your organization retire, that brain drain. What leaves with them It's so important that we capture that information. We're going to talk about that today. There's also challenges that investments in trade jobs have dropped. HVAC skills. I look back at it. I've been around the block for a while now, and I remember in high school when we used to have shop classes and opportunities for people to go into these professions. And that really kind of went by the wayside in the American school system. Fortunately, I think we're learning our lessons. Community college system is a great example where they're really starting to focus on the skills needed to arm the next generation of young men and women coming out and be able to fill these positions. But we are behind, and we have work to do as a country, as an educational institution. So that is creating some of the challenges around this. It's also creating increased costs for contract work, which is a great stopgap measure that you can look up in the Yellow Pages and find contractors to come in and do this work. But it's costly, and it's not long-term sustainable in many situations. So it's a short-term fix, but long-term that will hurt budgets and relate it. So how are we going to get around this? We need tools to help us do more with less. Now, I'm a manufacturing-oriented person. In that world, we call that lean. How can we be more lean? And there's all kinds of amazing tools, hardware, software, technology, digital-type tools that we can use to help us. So because we can't change this changing labor market. We cannot change the retirement rate. We can only try to arm our maintenance and operations staff with those tools to do more with less. So let's talk about some of those types of tools that we can use to do that. Well, the number one thing, in my opinion, is documenting the work that is ongoing in your organization right now. So especially as you have to move away from this hand-to-hand, just describe to the more junior, when Chuck, the senior technician, is describing to, say, Mary, who's maybe a newer person who's just getting the dirty hand side of the job, just really starting to understand how to work with the equipment and the assets and the facilities, and just not having her just shadow Chuck. But you're going to have to start documenting these operations. Mary's not going to figure that out on herself when she starts her position. She needs some help doing that. So work orders, your preventive maintenance work order routines, your common corrective maintenance work orders, having a really good handle on your equipment and your assets. Where are they physically located within your facilities? Where can I see them? How can I know where the manuals are? What parts I might need to use for these assets? But to have that information documented in your system. Safety documentation, utility use, setup and tear down tasks, any of those standard daily operational tasks that you're going through right now, where you can picture it. You have that senior technician who's just kind of maybe barking some orders to the newer people of what to do. Picture that person, Chuck, not being there to help people get through that process. Got to find ways to document that.
Yeah, Paul, I'm going to just chime in here on one example for the education side, if I can. On the setup and tear down tasks for facility defense, this is something that I see across the board. My specialty is in education facilities. I do work with others, but my specialization is definitely in education and more so public K-12. That is an often overlooked, non-documented, heavy weight on facilities departments. 10% of your utility budget goes to after-hours use of buildings. Your custodians who are tasked with cleaning 20 to 27,000 square feet every day, most people don't understand that they're actually cleaning that same space 2 and 3 times based on events. And the number of work orders that tied to those events that happen that nobody really pays attention to and are often overseen is one of your most costly. And until you actually document and put that information in front of folks and show it with facts and figures, it's really hard for people to understand. And the conception of your stakeholders, i.e. citizens, parents, faculty, and staff, is the school's always open anyway, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind it. It's a great example for documentation and the importance of it.
Excellent points. Thank you, Josh. Another thing that we have to figure out is you got to track and analyze. You need to know what work is being completed every day, and probably more importantly, what work is not getting completed every day. A CMMS, a computerized maintenance management system, a work and asset system, a work order system, whatever title you want to use for that. You need a system to track this. You need to know what your staff is doing, where their productivity is, where their challenge is. A good CMMS, a well-implemented CMMS system you're going to know the resources you need. You're going to know those right people to work on those correct work orders at that correct time. And to better manage that, that's how you can start to move into a doing more with less. You're also going to be able to analyze the historical nature of that information. It's going to help you analyze when you truly need to hire, what skill sets you're going to need. Are they more HVAC related? Are they more facilities related? Are they more, you name it, related? So you can help you focus in the types of resources you may need to expand or possibly contract your operations around. And a well-implemented CMMS system is going to help you do that. You need to train your team. It doesn't matter how old you are or your background. Everybody is going to need training. Chuck's been there forever. He knows how to change that filter in a hurricane blindfolded. But Chuck is going to need help. As he's in the twilight of his career with your organization, as things change, he's going to need help in a better understanding the technology side, the software side. Mary, the new hire, she's going to need help understanding the preventive maintenance routines, the corrective maintenance routines. So you have this combination of people that need different types of training and support as you go through this. Everything from understanding your facility, those daily processes, and we're going to have to make sure we learn how to develop our soft skills like communication. As Josh said, we've got 5 generations of people working in our buildings today. How can we properly get them to communicate with one another? How can we as management communicate to them? So training for your team in this changing workforce will be essential.
Yeah, that's soft skills, Paul. If you don't mind, that the soft skills on that's vitally important in everyone, and that touches on not just verbal communication skills. That's how their appearance is, the professionalism, but it also is you communicating as leaders to your team the importance of leveraging technology and starting to document things and better track, even if it's just documenting it. If you're not documenting anything and you're doing it on a notebook, just getting that next step of your staff being able to tell their story and share it, that's an often overlooked skill that many of our teams can really use and need that we don't really fully implement and share and do this. This is how we communicate, and here's the importance of that third shift custodial supervisor. This is the importance of you sharing your story so that we can tell it when you're sleeping and everybody's here doing their daily work. So that's definitely a big one, even though not necessarily directly tied with technology.
Totally agree. I'm going to hand it over to Josh for this next section.
Yeah, thanks. And so we're going to go over the state of skill sets, and I'm just going to get my controller here. Yep. Oh, thank you for switching that over. So what do we know today about the skill sets in our workforce? 80% of those surveyed say that they absolutely agree there's a skills gap. There's a huge skill gap overall. We're seeing it in my home state of Massachusetts, working hard to provide better programs with the Voc Tech schools and, like Paul touched on, the community colleges. 108 million workers hold jobs that require moderate or high digital knowledge, and 40% say changing skills requirements will have the biggest impact on their job over the next 5 years. And to look back a little bit on those results, if you think about, if you're and I'm 44 years old, been doing this for 22 years overall. If you look back 22 years ago, what did a technician have in their tool bag? They had tools, and today they have iPads, smartphones, special meters, infrared readers, the digital tie-ins, cloud-based software, drones, all sorts of new pieces to their world, whether they're an HVAC technician and they work on the roofs, or if they're a roofer that has to do the spot checks, and there's the technology and the tools to do that more efficiently, like Paul's saying, do more with less. These tools are definitely require new skills and licenses and certifications. But you need these key skills to succeed in today's workforce: technical skills, digital skills, and soft skills. Technical skills, they're critical. They are of critical to operations, but we know there's a lack. Seeking out creative training opportunities, apprenticeship, mentorship, company-sponsored trainings can pay off. We're doing a lot of that here at Dude Solutions with mentorship and some soft training, which we do things like something called Random Coffee, where we're meeting people in other departments and learning what they do and learning skill sets that they need to do their jobs and vice versa. Mentorship programs, those are great. I think that people have to do some more work on their programs in some places, but one of the greatest mentorships programs that I see are in associations. So I see that Keith Watkins was on this, and I hope they don't mind me throwing your name out there, Keith, but you put a thing in the question and answer, so I know you're here. But Keith Watkins is the president of National School Plant Managers Association, and the New York School Building and Grounds Association he's been past president of. And their associations have great programs where older, more hands-on experienced staff members will take on younger, new staff members and show them the ropes and show them what they've got for history and look at how they can move forward. And on the flip side, they're looking to these newer, younger team members to show some new, innovative, and creative ways to do more with less. And this is a slide. Actually, I'll let Paul touch on this one because this is one of his slides, and I think a great visual, and he talks about it better than I could.
Well, you brought it up earlier, Josh, and I think it's a very good point. You look at somebody's tool bag or what's in their cart or in their truck 20, 30, 40 years ago, say when Chuck was getting started, and you look in what's in the toolbox today, and it's changed. It's not just what's in your toolbox. It's also when you look at these assets and these equipments that you're performing maintenance on. You know, in the old days, it was largely analog gauges, and if there was any gauges at all, you kind of did maintenance by smell and feel and touch and hearing. And nowadays, the tools that you use, the assets that you work on, they're more sophisticated. So the technical skills gap to bring a person like Chuck up to that next level to understand these tools, because at the end of the day, these tools and these assets can be more efficient. You can, they are for the better, but you've got to get over that skills gap to understand them. And I think this is just a representation of that.
Thank you. And so digital skills. Now's the time to grow you and your team's digital skill set as much as possible. Exploring using these for daily work, smartphones, tablets. Software vendors can help you with virtual and on-site training. I would say that just about all of you in your staff have smartphones. There's probably a handful that still use flip phones or maybe don't like phones or completely against technology. But if you were to look, one of the things that we focus on are the one or two that don't leverage and utilize technology opposed to the 8 or 10 that are. And there's the use of technology, especially mobile smartphones and tablets, it's been around a long time. If people aren't familiar with it, aren't aware of it, we actually produced our first mobile work order on a Nextel device in 2004, and it was a flip phone, and it was very rudimentary, but we actually opened and closed our first work order on a flip phone almost over 15 years ago. So technology's been around for a while, and the reason why I share that is because it's been around for a while, it's gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, and now it's easier than ever to leverage those devices and start to actually make it an efficient work tool that's easy for your staff, even those that aren't technically advanced, if you will. I would tell people, if you can go online and make your football picks for the week, book a plane ticket, check your email, go check the news, you can produce, close, view, modify a work order just as easy as any of those things. And this is another great visual that Paul put together, which is, everybody, I would imagine that a number of you are sitting at your desk in front of your computer right now, and you might not be able to see what's on the screen because that pile on the left is looking at you and blocking your view. We all have piles, and historically, that's what I used to walk into in a facilities office, is a stack of work that needed attention. It's you guys know where every single one of those needed papers are in that pile. I couldn't tell where it is, but you have that. That's your stuff. Leveraging technology, you still have all that stuff, but it's in a much easier to access, easier to find and report, and provide a story to with dashboards, reports, real-time adjustments based on work that's getting completed out in the field, that's getting sent to mobile devices. Really cool stuff happening.
And just to piggyback on that, Josh, I mean, like when you talk about doing more with less, it's going to be impossible in this changing workforce to find efficiencies and improvements if you're still using a paper-based maintenance system. And a spreadsheet is nothing more than a paper-based system. It's just in your computer or a whiteboard. You need a cohesive system where everything is at your fingertips to really help you with those efficiencies. And that's where I think understanding and taking advantage of these digital skills will help you do more with less, which will help you with this changing workforce.
Absolutely. Soft skills. We touched on the soft skills with things like communication, collaboration, listening, critical thinking. And how could we as leaders better develop our soft skills? I'm actually out here in Vail, Colorado today. I was in professional development this morning, and the keynote speaker actually made an incredible point and said, how often do you ask someone how they're doing and walk by, like almost like a crop duster? You just, hey, how are you doing? And you don't take the time to stop and listen and ask a question, and maybe even change it. If every time you ask someone how they're doing, they say good, and that's it. Change it to, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your day going? 1 being terrible, 10 being the best. And to build dialogue and communication with your team and start to build them so that they know how to have better communication skills as well, and how they should talk to their team, to their folks and their teams. Listening is one of the biggest things that I find as a public speaker. Everyone thinks that my job is primarily talking. I'd say my job is about 20% talking and 80% learning and listening. This is an often overlooked skill set that we can all do better at. And, someone said, you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and that's to listen twice as much as you talk. And I think there's a lot to be said with that we could all very easily, these are easy skills that we could learn through professional development, reading, and just daily self-analysis of, how our day is going and how we're interacting with folks. Paul, I'm going to slide this over to you. Just give me 1 second. Should be good.
All right, I got it. Thank you, Josh. So we're gonna move into what's the state of technology. So here's what we know about technology. 95% of organizations agree a digital workplace is important. That stat cracks me up. I wonder what the other 5% think how digital is not important. I'm guessing their heads are firmly buried in the sand. Digital workplace is not just important, it's essential, it's critical. You're not going to do more with less. You're going to have a hard time adjusting to the aging workforce if you do not focus on the digital and technology side of the changes that are coming. 73% of organizations say that the vast majority of their applications will be SaaS, another way for saying cloud, by 2020. I think this is an excellent indication that most organizations really see the cloud, SaaS software and applications as viable solutions that will help them. And SaaS, cloud-based software, is so better in terms of access from anywhere, and we'll get into some of that in a little bit. 45% of organizations report improved customer satisfaction as a result of a digital workplace. If you look at your just core maintenance and facilities operations team, and you look at how the digital and technology that can help them improve, help them do more with less, as that happens and they become more efficient and they get better at their jobs, that'll have a ripple effect. That will make it better in the manufacturing world for production and for sales. in government education will ripple over into the teachers and the administrative staff and ultimately the students or the residents and citizens of the area that are served. So by doing a better job where you are in your maintenance operations, that you have the opportunity to ripple that out and really improve the people that ultimately you're there to serve. We know a lot about this at Dude Solutions because we've been in this business a long time. But I'm going to let Josh talk about this because he's been around here for a long time.
Yeah, that's Paul's nice way of saying that I'm the Dude Dinosaur, which I proudly hold. I've been with the Dude going on 16 years, 20 years in our existence, and I've watched it grow from right around 300 unique institutions as clients to over 12,000. We take care of, we oversee with our software and helping you over $9 billion in asset value and 12 million assets. And this is a little bit outdated. We actually crossed over, I believe, over 3 million unique logins. When I started, we had less than 10,000. We did 250 million work orders, 1 million buildings in our software, as well as we have over 650 employees now, where I'm employee number 9. With a 97% client satisfaction rate, and we're not done there. We're looking for 100%. We're doing our absolute best. Every person, every client, every day. We do our absolute best to try to be as close to 100% client satisfaction as we can, because we want to work through retention. Doing this and having all these statistics, I think, is one of the reasons. One, to show that we know what we're talking about with what we have, and also that we have a lot. So when you one of the touches I'll say is anything that you're looking at that involves technology, the day-to-day, the work orders are great, but the data that's behind it is what's going to get you to that next step. And I just want to touch a little bit. I have my phone muted on Paul's last slide on client satisfaction on your end, and I'll give a quick story of my mother. My mother's a Spanish school teacher out of Oak Tech School in Massachusetts, been a client for 10 years. And on her first day, she had made a request, which she would typically do in a non-Dude client school that she was at previous, which was just a hallway mugging, where the technician was walking down the hallway to do work, and she just stopped him and asked him to do something for her. And his response was to just do it. And she sent me an email and said, I'm here on my first day, and they just want to let your CEO know we use Dude Solutions as a verb. When I asked to do something, I had to just do it. The first time that she had to do that, it was a little bit of a, what does this do? What does this mean? By the third time that she did it, she actually screenshotted her requests and showed the status of them. And it really gave her a sense of knowing what's going on, because a lot of your staff in any vertical that you're in, manufacturing, membership, YMCAs, education, local gov, you guys are working, behind the curtains. Your team's working behind the curtains every day. And unless someone actually sees you do the work, a lot of times they don't know if you've done the work. So that tie-in is huge. That communication, that visibility through that digital is something big. And then again, telling that story at the end. How many work orders did you complete in a month? How many work orders did you complete in a year? It was great to go to a manufacturing facility and see on their board that they were very easily able to pull up a data point of 98% of PM work completed in the month. That's pretty powerful and motivating for your team. So just that, my little 2 cents there. Sorry, Paul, I couldn't unmute quick enough.
No, I love the story, Josh, and Dude as a noun and a verb. I love it.
Yep.
So teams that use CMMS, Computerized Maintenance Management System, work and asset, whatever you want to call it, time savings and increased productivity. And that's lean. That's doing more with less. That's making sure that our people are efficiently and optimally associated with the appropriate work orders in the appropriate priority, and we're getting that work done. Organize workflows and improve customer service. An example I'll often use, say somebody makes a work order around a specific pump, or in the manufacturing world it might be a specific piece of production equipment. Well, with Dude's Work and Asset Solutions, we can automatically associate the appropriate technician or contractor and make sure when that work order gets created that they are alerted, they get a notification, an email. Or maybe if it's a safety-related issue because there's a safety tag on that a safety officer gets tagged on and gets properly alerted. So all these different intelligence that you can add to your process as you start to increase your involvement with CMMS can really help streamline, get you more lean, get you doing more with less. Cloud-based software, the ability to work from anywhere. You can be walking across your building, your school, your campus, your manufacturing production floor. You could be driving to another facility. You could be flying to a conference in Vail, Colorado, and still check the work orders if you need to check them while you're not at your desk. That's a great thing about cloud. It's always available to you to do that. Better strategic capital planning and cost savings. You know what assets are doing well and not doing well. You know what buildings are having a tougher time. You know what staff might need more training or where contractors are doing well or not doing well because you have the ability to analyze that and make really smart capital planning and cost savings decisions. Really, the detailed reporting. If you have that data, and more importantly, the information, as Josh said earlier, we've got a tremendous amount of information in our system that can arm you with the proof you need to go to your management, to go to your board, to go to your people, so you can get what you need and have that real proof right in front of you. Well, how are we going to embrace technology? You know, everybody started somewhere with anything new and different. Adapting to technology is no different. I mean, like Josh talked about earlier generation mobile, and that was always an interesting conversation for me when mobile, you know, going on 15 years ago now, when mobile was really starting to get a little bit of traction. I know for many of you, you're not even in there yet, and you're thinking about it, but the common response in the manufacturing world where I was we can't let our people have mobile devices. They're going to just play games. They're going to surf the web. And, yes, there's the possibility of doing that, but I see it as a tool just like their multimeter and just like their crescent wrench that is in their toolbox, and it helps them do their job better and be more efficient. You've got to kind of embrace that concept and treat it that way. People will adapt better. When you can show them with these tools, these CMMS tools, documenting your work is a great example. When we sit down with Chuck or we shadow Chuck and we start to write down what Chuck is doing for those hard-to-perform tasks that only Chuck knows how to do, again, blindfolded, write it down. Get it in your CMMS system. Not only can you get it in your CMMS system, these preventive maintenance routines, these daily inspections, these setup, teardown projects that you have to do, you can capture what they do with pictures and video links of how they do it. Because that brain drain, you've got to capture, especially in the aging workforce, what they do. Things like your safety documentation, the videos from your vendors, anything that's related, the documents, the manuals, should all be there right at your fingertips. So on your mobile device or at your desktop, you can pull this information up from your CMMS system. Your tracking, your analysis, upper left-hand corner. When I log into our work and asset solution, I know exactly how many work orders I have. I know how many my team has, preventive and corrective. I know how many parts I might need to order. I have a good list, bottom left, good list of my work orders, properly prioritized. Bottom right, I've got visibility into my long-term schedule, preventive, corrective schedule. And, of course, upper right here, I can do that on my desktop, or probably even better with my mobile device as I'm walking around my facility, have all of that information right at my fingertips. So if you can highlight these benefits to whether it be your management, to your supervisor, to your people, earlier involvement will get buy-in. They'll see the value of what these solutions can do. That's a win-win situation. So get them to see that. The last thing you want to do with technology is force them into using something that they weren't expecting. I've never seen that work. I've always seen it work significantly better when you include them in the conversation. You find champions that way. Champions are team members who welcome the technology. They welcome the benefits from it. You empower them. They will encourage and train other people. You know, the older generation that might be a little more hesitant to look at a mobile device as a daily tool they use, And if it's done respectfully, my example of Mary, the new hire who grew up with a mobile device in her hands and can see those work orders in her mobile device, can say, hey, Chuck, watch this. I'll walk you through it. It's not hard. Josh gave a great example. I can scan the barcode on in that room that I'm working on or that asset that I need to work on, and it quickly pulls up my open work orders. I can look at that work order, see my instructions if I need to. Chuck doesn't need to see that, but Chuck can close that work order. And you can do those things relatively quickly. So you get your champions to help encourage and train other people. And then you've got to provide ongoing training and support. Don't expect everybody to pick this up quick or immediate. You've got to make sure that you've got external sources like us to help train you on the software and our solutions. You've got your internal people, your champions, and so forth that can provide that ongoing support and training because you want these people to embrace these solutions. All right, I'm going to hand this back over to Josh for this next section.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the state of the teams. And what we know about today's teams. 25% of the workforce will be made up of Gen Z by 2022. And that's a pretty big statistic in a short amount of time that we're going to see because Gen Z is just starting to hit the workforce. If they've gone to 4 years of college, they've just been in the workforce for just a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years tops. 21 to 25 is age of employees mentoring is 21 to 25 is the age of employees that mentoring most appeals to, followed by those 50 plus. It's really been interesting as an older team member to see mentorship opportunities with some of the younger folks and their interest in wanting to learn. It's definitely a learning experience for the mentor and the mentee. And one thing I'll say about that, if you are doing mentorship programs, do a lot of homework on them, and make sure that there's a fit, and make sure that it's a genuine fit, not just placement. And that takes a lot of work from a leadership perspective of sometimes trying to encourage pairing people up without pairing people up. But it has really become more popular with this younger workforce coming in. And 86% of employees cite poor communication for workplace failure. This is huge. Again, this is 5 different generations, and one piece of that is that I would tell anyone to try to remove is any stereotyping, both through you as well as your team. The millennials, they get beat up all the time. They're millennials. They change their job every 6 months. They do this, and this. But sometimes we have to do a checkup from the neck up as leaders and say, are we stereotyping them as millennials and causing them to want to go elsewhere? Do we have good people that we're just putting into this, standard bucket, or is there something that we could do to possibly make their learning better, i.e., mentorship, outside certification, challenge above and beyond their task that they're doing? The friction of multiple generations working together, different levels of career experience, different tenure with the employer, different comfort levels with technology, different communication styles. These are all the kind of the standard answers that you would get and that you would see in an obvious environment that has multiple generations that have gone through many different lives, if you will. But the big one here is understanding your team and positioning them together so that friction doesn't happen, building dialogue and rules of engagement of, hey, we're not all going to see eye to eye. This is how we should attack it and respect one another, opposed to someone that's been here for 40 years that's, he's just the grumpy guy, and the person that's been here for 3 weeks that's only going to be here for 6 months. Trying to get a set dialogue across generations with a commitment of everybody working together for common goals, sticking to your mission. Next steps, working well cross-generationally. The key is seeing how these generations are actually more alike than different. We do a lot of team building exercises. I do a lot outside of Dude with organizations. And you could do something like go online and order a team building program that's titled Swamped, and it's a workbook, and all it does is put through a situation of a team of five that are stuck on an island after a canoe trip. What do you do and how do you do it? And put your teams in different generations and people that don't know each other, maybe get a little bit uncomfortable, but find ways and times that you can get people together and see how much more alike they are than they believe. And you can do that through exercises, team building, just general meetings, once a week meetings to talk about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Focus on what aligns the generations. Drive to be successful, human connection to be heard, collaboration, team morale, providing good customer service. The drive to be successful, I will share this. I travel around the country, and I talk about mission, vision, and values. We have to constantly be talking to our team about what the mission is, what our values are, and where our company's vision is, and make sure that that's all properly aligned to have a successful outcome. And that's something that we need to be just, every day. I've gone to some organizations that have them visible, lining up the wall painted with what it is. Talk about what we need to do to get to that next step where we want to go. Human connection. Social media is killing human connection, person to person, eyeball to eyeball, communicating properly, understanding the importance of their word, and then also understanding the importance of that word being heard. Collaborating, working together, team morale. This is one I did 2 days ago in Massachusetts on public speaking, as well as team speaking. The importance in your meetings. I'm on the marketing team, and I am just so. This is one of my favorite things in my career that I've ever experienced. I went to my first team meeting for marketing, and they open up with a shout out. It's a 5-minute shout out, and all it is the team members recognizing other team members for things of excellence that they did that might be overlooked, not seen, or things that they did without looking for any sort of recognition. Doing things like that builds team morale, gets people excited to go to the meeting. Hey, I wonder if someone's going to bring me up. I wonder what we're going to hear about that happened that was good. And then providing great customer service. If you read Jim Collins' Good to Great, it opens up. There's a lot of schools on here. First paragraph of a business book of great businesses. Why are there so many good schools? Because there's so few great schools. Striving for great customer service. We strive for legendary client support. That's important to us, and that's something that we should all work towards. And it doesn't, and realize that it just doesn't come naturally. We have to put work into it. No matter the age, everyone's a student and a teacher. Each generation having a different perspective or approach can actually work for you, and use strengths on your team and take turns leading and learning. That's absolutely correct. I learn more now at 44 than I ever thought I probably learned at 22. I am just trying to learn and take in as much as I can and excited about it every day. There's a lot that I can learn from someone coming into the workforce brand new. There's a lot that I can learn from the guy that originally hired me that's 75 years old that still finds ways to work and talk to him weekly. But leveraging people's strengths is something that's important, making sure that they're focusing on what their strengths are and working towards the next level for them as well. Embrace membership. I already talked about this. When people feel understood and valued, morale improves and the doorway for communication opens. Look for mentorship opportunities on your team to expand the skills. You want to have mentors that are not direct leaders, might not be direct competitor technician. You might want to find people that fit more. So a lot of times it'll be someone that might be a direct report and they'll say, I'm mentoring this person that's on my team. You want to find people that are fit, might be outside of your organization. I have folks that I'm connected with on LinkedIn and other places that will reach out to me and say, hey, do you know anybody that's in this that is in this line of work or has these goals and commonalities that might be a fit to be a mentor for one of my young folks? So sometimes you look outside your organization, but look for mentorship opportunities. Retain your talent. This is huge. It is so hard today in any organization to retain talent. The grass is always greener on the other side. Competitive culture, promotions, and all these things that go with people's interest in departing. A decline in skilled workforce training programs that we've gone over for years that now we're trying to play catch up on. So one of the things that you definitely want to look to that many organizations frown upon is if a worker isn't a fit, maybe look to see if there's another position internally that might be of interest, that might be a good fit, that they could be a high-performing team member. Adopt to workers' needs with flexible hours or phased retirement. This is huge right now. It's not something that your teams can necessarily take advantage of with their actual hands-on technicians work, but with their efforts with using technology, being able to go home and log into their computer and print out their work orders that they have to come up, the next day. Seeing if they can adjust any of their time, their schedules instead of 8 to 5, if they can do 7 to 4 or something like that. And then encourage workers to return part-time through project contracting. That's huge right now in the education. There's so many people retiring. You want to encourage some of those folks that if they still have some gas in the tank and they're just retiring just to retire, maybe have them come back and work on some projects part-time or some scheduled, quarterly, hey, come in for a week and help and just overlook and see, or maybe just an extra set of hands. You'd be amazed at the number of people that retire or leave because of a day on a calendar that they set for themselves 40 years prior. Realistically, they're probably not ready to retire, and unless you have that conversation with them, a lot of times they'll just leave. But having a conversation with those folks that are leaving, if there might be a spot for them or an opportunity, or providing them a spot or opportunity with one of your peers. And that gets us here to the bottom line.
As you transfer that to me, one thing to add to that, retain your talent. I have more manufacturing background. It's way more expensive to bring in somebody to replace an exiting employee than it is just to keep the person you have right there. And an interesting study was done. There was an auto manufacturer that had a production line where the average age of these workers was in the low 30s, and they did an experiment, and they put an older group of workers. It was more like the mid-40s, almost high 40s average age workers, and they studied to see how could they work in that environment. And it turns out that what they learned was if they made adjustments, ergonomic adjustments, like in this example, you had to have your hands over your head for a lot of the process, and that was tiring for your older workers. If there are changes you can make, like maybe you don't have your older workers have to climb ladders anymore, or perform tasks like that. Maybe that they have comfortable shoes, or you think about the ergonomics of how they work. These very knowledgeable, tough to replace, people you don't want to replace will possibly stick around longer. And that's what happened for this auto manufacturer. They were able to retain more people. Their production was great, even with these older work orders, when they recognized that this changing workforce just needs some tweaks. All right, so we're on the last couple slides here. We're on the bottom line. So just wrapping it up here, operations is changing. Management is no different. The choices you make today will influence your industry in the future. We are at a very interesting time. We are seeing a major shift in the way maintenance and facilities operations gets done. Technology-wise, with the aging workforce, it's different, and it's changing at a rate that we haven't seen probably in our existence. So you really have to think about how you influence, because you are making an influence on not only your organization and your career, you're making an influence on your industry of the future. Future-proof that. Lean, doing more with less. You don't want to have to put up with the changing workforce. You want to take advantage. You want to rise. You want to really use that as an opportunity to improve your operations, not just immediately, because it is tougher to find qualified people today, given the shortfalls we talked about today. But over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, you want to future-proof that so your organization is ready for these changes that we're seeing. Be a positive change. Leave your legacy that you're proud of. Everything from capturing the information of the great maintenance you've been doing on these equipment and facilities all these years, and as well as the systems you're creating, be a part of that legacy to make those improvements. So I think we're at the end of our slides, and we are at a poll question now. So I think you should be seeing something come up on the screen for a final poll, and then we'll have time for Q&A after the poll.
The poll question is, I need help with A, streamlining my workflow and managing my assets, controlling my utility costs and saving energy, optimizing the scheduling and planning process for facility events, forecasting facility needs and creating a 5, 10, or 20-year capital plan, find out what's on your threat radar, is what I like to call it, or E, all of the above.
And while we're waiting to answer this, I don't think we won't be publishing these results. We're also, I know we're getting low on time here. there's probably a couple of Q&A questions that have come in.
Yep. We'll
Sure, yeah.
give this about 5 more seconds, and then we can do the questions, or are we going to do that? We're not going to do this poll question result.
Yeah, we won't be sharing these results. Yep.
Yeah, we can jump right into the questions. This is Greg Zimmerman, your moderator again. Thanks, Paul and Josh, for a fantastic presentation. Just a reminder to our attendees here, if you do have some questions for Paul and Josh, we have a few minutes here for questions. Make sure to send them to all attendees here. So let's start with an attendee, Paul and Josh, that has a comment and a question. And he says, we have to stop thinking that facilities is a plug-and-play department and have to plan years in advance when our senior or most knowledgeable staff are exiting. And he includes a little tagline here, success without succession is failure, which is a very good point. But what would you say is the best way to leverage knowledge from employees who are retiring sooner rather than later?
I think one of the number one ways is you've got to figure out how to document what they're doing. If it's just in their brain, if it's not written down, if it's just I remember when Chuck explained that to me a year ago, but I can't remember exactly how to do it right now. If you're having those kind of conversations, you have not captured the amazing knowledge that they have in their head. And that's everything from just you take the Mary, the new person who just started there, and you shadow Chuck, and you document it, and you get it into your CMMS system. So I think capturing that brain drain, it would be my number one thing I would suggest.
Yeah, and I would agree 100%, and I would add mindset. It is vitally important for our team members that are getting ready to retire. They're 60-plus years old typically. For them to have a mindset, when they started in the workforce, they did their job, and that was good enough. And now it's vitally important for us to have that knowledge, that institutional knowledge and understanding that we have. And we have to communicate that to them, to let them know how important that is. And how when they leave, if they leave and we don't have that somewhere, the library's closed. We got to start over, and just making them try to get a mindset shift of, hey, you did the work, that's great, but we need to keep that here so that we can continue on and share that story and get to the next level.
Okay, great. Can you talk briefly about, or maybe reiterate, what are some of the best practices when it comes to getting and documenting that historical knowledge from employees like Susan and Chuck?
I mean, there's no other way to say it. It is a bit of grunt work. You have to make an investment to take the time to capture that, and physically, literally writing down or typing in your PM routines or your corrective maintenance or your daily inspections or setup, whatever it may be, and that's what our solutions do. You have a place to capture that information. But to expand on that, it's real easy today to take your mobile device and take a little video of Chuck performing some tasks that he can do blindfolded, but nobody else can do without him standing over their shoulder talking him through it. Videotape it and have that be part of the record so that when that next generation, when Mary goes to do it after Chuck's long since retired and golfing or having fun on a beach somewhere, she can look at a video of Chuck and see how that task is done. So there's lots of tips and tricks like that with our solutions that can help you.
Yeah, and I would take this as education specific, and you may be able to do it in other vertical markets. But there's work study programs in schools today, primarily public K-12 schools, where students are given credits to do work at school. Getting some of those kids that were basically born with smart devices in their hands and get them into a program where they're following Chuck, they're working with Chuck, they may be doing the data entry for Chuck, but they're helping Chuck get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that 60-plus-year-old team member, they're probably not leveraging technology a whole lot. So getting younger folks involved, maybe even a mentorship program, getting them involved to help Chuck with that discomfort that he has with technology, get him comfortable by sharing his knowledge, and then having that shared resource and putting it somewhere.
Okay, yeah, very good. And along those lines, an attendee is asking here, several members of my team are over and have been resistant to software in the past. And this is probably a very common question for facility managers. I want the analysis and everything that the software can do, but I keep hearing, but this is how we've always done it. How do I get my team to embrace these new tools?
Champions, early buy-in, as we said in the presentation. Those naysayers that think, oh, I'll never let my people use the mobile device, or I'm not going to use the CMS. I don't have time to sit there and type in this stuff. You got to get that mindset turned around. If you can't get that mindset turned around, you've got to get your organization and those key players to see the value of what this solution can do for you, how it can improve your operations, improve your bottom line if you're a for-profit, improve your student experience if you're a school, because there's data that really can support how this will really help you, your team, your organization. See that and make the mindset change that you will put the investment to get it done. And that, you can't cram that down people's throats. I don't think you can. I think you can get them to see the value, embrace it, and they'll want to be a part of making that better and then embrace the technology and follow through.
Yeah, and that comment might have worked historically, but we are in such a rapid growth of technology when you look at buildings and you look at just 20 years, never mind a 30 or 40-year-long employee. They probably could have gone their first 20 years and said that and pulled it off. But in the last 20 years, technology has advanced in such a way. These buildings are getting so much smarter. We have people at 36,000 feet setting occupancy overrides from their laptop. I'm in Vail, Colorado. Paul's in Maine. We're having this webinar today. My fiance made a comment before I left 2 days ago. She said it's so weird. It's so weird using our light switches in the house because we don't use them. We use Alexa and we use Philips Hue and we use all these things. We don't have standard light switches anymore. So we have to start to embrace and look at all of these new pieces of technology and smart buildings and all the stuff out there and start to embrace that and learn how to best use it opposed to just turning the switch on and off. There's a lot more to those switches today.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Yes, we have time for about one more question, and this is a good spot to end on, I think. An attendee's asking, how can I encourage my team to leave a legacy that they're proud of?
Well, I tell you, if my analogy of Mary shadowing Chuck and recording Chuck, that's your legacy. You've been maintaining those assets for your whole career and doing a really good job at it, and you're getting close to retirement age. What better way to leave your legacy than to leave these excellent maintenance operation habits that you've had and you've tried to instill on your younger generation of workers, and have that physically be a part of the system of record, where I can pull up that list of instructions, or I can see a picture of Chuck or Susan, or watch a video of them doing that. That is your legacy. So you will be a permanent part of that will train those future generations.
Yeah, I'll end with a personal story if it's all right. One of the things is your teams. We feel like we know our people and we understand, and they're standoffish or they might not want to share things. The majority of your team members, especially the ones that want to retire, they want to leave a good legacy. They just don't know how. And my personal story is on May 13th, 1966, Friday the 13th, my grandfather, Manuel Pedro, came here from Madeira with my mom and my uncle and my grandmother with one suitcase. And he spent his career working in a machine tool grinding shop and was a custodian for a supermarket chain. And he always told me that from day one, and it's something that people always hear, they'll be posting things and see, leave wherever it is that you came much better when you leave. And he lived by that every single day. He never knew how to share that or show that. He just thought the work that he did today was that made it better than it was yesterday. But there's a much greater message that we can say, which is the work that you do today is way better than yesterday, and what you can give to us for tomorrow can help the future much greater than you could ever imagine. And sharing those things with them to get them on board and bought into it personally, and making them so they understand fully what leaving a legacy means, would probably get a lot more embracing from them.
Okay, very good. That is an inspiring way to end today. I appreciate it. Thanks again to Paul and Josh for a fantastic presentation, for sticking around and answering a few questions here. Just a reminder to our attendees to watch your email later today for a link to the PDF of the slides and also for the assessment for your CEU credits. For Building Operating Management, I'm Greg Zimmerman. Thanks, everyone, for attending.